Brazil is the fifth largest and sixth most populous country in the world, home to over 212 million people in an area larger than the continental United States. This is a map of Brazil's population density. As you can see, while most of Brazil's population lives near the coast, the population is nonetheless still quite spread out throughout the country's coastline, meaning having the capital in the southern city of Rio de Janeiro was seen as effectively favoring the south over the north. In addition, while the capital was located in its own special federal district within Rio, the city had also grown far too crowded for the capital. With all this in mind, Articles 2 and 3 of the Constitution of the First Brazilian Republic, signed all the way back in 1891, established two things. Each of the old provinces will form a state, and the old neutral municipality will constitute the federal district, continuing to be the capital of the Union until the provisions of the following article are implemented. An area of 14,400 square kilometers belongs to the Union, in the central plateau of the Republic, which will be demarcated in due time to establish the future federal capital. Basically, translated Google Translate here, the provinces are now states, and the old district within Rio would remain the federal district until a new one near the center of the country could be established. In the 1955 presidential election, Juscelino Kubitschek was elected on a platform based on rapid economic development, epitomized by a slogan, 50 years in 5, namely in two initiatives. The Plano de Metas, or Plan of Goals, aiming to open up and modernize the Brazilian economy, including through the other initiative, finally moving the capital.
No planned capital city captures the spirit of post-war modernism quite like Brasilia. Lucio Costa's plan for Brazil's new capital city is a prime example of planned rationality, of using a plan to create order. The plan, called the Plano Pilota or pilot plan, is quite simple, and yes, it definitely resembles an airplane. The primary axes are set along a skeleton made of highways. This is a city designed first for the car, then people. The wings are primarily for residential blocks, and residents can use that central highway to get to the other districts of the city. The area where the wings meet the fuselage is the true heart of the city, the social space filled with theaters, restaurants, cinemas, and the central bus station. Most of the fuselage contains the monumental sector, which actually contains more than just monuments. It does house the major buildings of the Brazilian government, but also stores, banks, and small industries. Finally, there are areas dedicated for open space and recreation. Amenities include amusement parks, a zoo, and a sports complex. Now, there is even more complexity when you focus in on these areas. In the residential sector, you'll find that within the original planned city west of the W3 Avenue is primarily single-family row houses. 2 rows of houses face a green space with pedestrian access. On the other side of the wings, along L2, you get affordable 3-story apartment blocks. But there is one part of the sector that's perhaps just as novel as the Plano Pilota itself. It's this area in the center of the wings, made up of the superquadra or superblocks. Each superblock is 300 meters by 300 meters. The residential buildings are 6 stories tall and raised on pillars. The idea is that someone should be able to walk from one side of a superquadra to the other unimpeded. It also accentuates the importance of the ground plane in landscaping. Today, with 60 years for the trees to mature, superquadras are quite verdant. Each one is also surrounded by a green space, effectively acting as little green belts. Despite their location in the residential sector, superquadras are mixed use and meant to be miniature cities in their own right. In Costa's plan, each superquadra would have an elementary school. Superblocks also have shops, and the shops for one superblock face the shops of another superblock, creating a local shopping street. It's not the prettiest little main street, but it's functional. There is also a larger park per group of 4 superblocks. Additionally, the plan called for 1 district hospital per group of 8 superblocks. The whole system is very repeatable. In traditional cities, the buildings form the fabric of the city, and it almost appears like the streets have been cut out of that fabric. Brasilia flips that equation, and open space is the default, and the buildings are added to that space. In architecture, the terms are figure and ground. Traditional cities are more figure than ground, and Brasilia is more ground than figure. One important postscript to the Costa plan for Brasilia. Most residents of the city don't actually live in the planned area. The airplane was only designed to hold 500,000 passengers or so, but today the Brasilia metro area has over 4 million residents. Brasilia's suburbs are not the density of Rio or Sao Paulo, but they are certainly more normal looking than the superquadras of the Plano Piloto. For all of the thought Costa and Niemeyer put into their plan, Many, if not most, Brasilia residents don't even interact with that area on a daily basis. The wings of the plane are home to mostly wealthy residents, while everyone else lives in the suburbs. Costa criticized administrative incompetence as the main reason why the planning area did not end up having a mixture of different social classes living in all neighborhoods. Costa's initial plan of expanding Brasilia for increased population capacity was to incrementally add more mixed income superblocks and other planned housing depending on need. But as we can see, that didn't happen. It will always be a difficult task for an urban designer to design a national capital from scratch. A bold vision can often be eroded by the realities of politics, demographics, and budget constraints. Brasilia is a great example of this, and so is Canberra, the planned capital city of Australia.